China is in trouble. There's chaos, rats, vampires, and elves. Disgusting. Enter Bhashiva and her tiger warriors. Today we're going to take nothing but cat units to go and save China. But given the playstyle of these cats, we're going to be using guerrilla tactics along the way. That means we can only have small armies, so I will have no army bigger than 10 units. We'll be using a lot of ambushes, hit and run, sabotage to try and weaken the enemy and systematically break them down. We'll also not take any territory to keep for ourselves, giving it all to the Chinese cat lady overlord, Meow Ying. And to spice it up further, let's try and get China completely free of bad guys by turn 100. I'll be doing this on legendary, very hard battles and maxed out stats for the enemy. Come on! Meow! So we begin over in the mountains next to Cathay with a bunch of units that are not cats, so they're gone. We start with the Claw Speaker hero, so he's a Tiger Man, he's fine. And so with our downsized army, we commence our first battle against Ogres. Now I've only got the one unit of Iron Claw Tiger Warriors, which are anti-large, so good for the Ogres. But I tried to break the enemy unit charges so that my regular Tiger Warriors wouldn't get charged in the face. This allowed us to pour out the damage without taking too much, while Bhashiva gave the Ogre Lord epilepsy. So first battle out the way, not too much damage taken. I recruit a couple more Tiger Warriors because luckily we can do that from the start of the campaign. We're now taking a battle to try and get rid of the Ogre camp here. Currently just a Lone Lord moves. I didn't notice his name before. Fantastic. Ideally, I wanted to try and kill this Lord before the reinforcements arrived so we could just end the battle and kind of win that way. But alas, the reinforcements arrived pretty damn quick. We did have some nice rock formations to make use of though, with a nice little choke point that I could put my one anti-large unit in, ready for all those Ogres. And they played right into our tigery paws, running straight into that, fighting my anti-large unit, so perfect. Other than that, it was just a bunch of Noblars that our Tiger Warriors absolutely savaged, and I flanked around on the choke point to hit what was left fighting there, and this Ogre camp was a done. I then grabbed a couple more Tiger Warriors and took the next settlement in this province, which would be our one and only province for this entire campaign. In this campaign, you get these relics from taking settlements and things, which can be used to upgrade your Tiger Warriors, so I'll be doing that as I go. I then push on to take Firemouth, the final settlement in this province, which also gives me access to the armies of Shangyang, which basically allows me to use other Cathay units, most of which are no use to me because they're not cats. There's also Zhao Ming's goals, which I'll be completely ignoring because we don't really need to do them. Over the turn, the last of the Blood Guzzlers try their luck on one of my settlements, but fail miserably. And now because my main army has reached its 10 unit limit, I'm recruiting a second lord to build my second 10 unit army, which I named, yeah, I had to do it, Tony. He's great! Come on! Over the turn, these other nearby ogres declared war on me, and as I moved up to get after them, they got after me. With a pretty sizable army with a lot of ogres, and I didn't really have a great deal of anti-large, so this was a bit concerning. You see, the thing about Tiger Warriors, as cool as they are a little bit squishy and thus not that good at taking charges, and they have ferocious ambush, which means they're good at attacking things in the rear, so we want to try and flank with them. So I tried to use Bhashiva and my hero to stop a few ogre charges and then got the Tiger Warriors to charge in. This protected them from a good bit of damage and allowed them to go a lot further. We did have our one anti-large unit though. My units on the flank were trying to get around behind to get that ferocious ambush, but Noblars were in the way. It wouldn't take too long to get through them though, and we could then push on looking for those missile units and those ferocious ambushes. So we sandwiched some of the ogres quite nicely, routed them off fairly quick, and then it was just a case of chasing down those Noblar slingers. And with our avoidance of charges and heavy flanking attacks, we got the job done. Although we couldn't completely finish that army off and it retreated back near the settlement, I just took the auto here to get them done, get us that first settlement, and then I pushed on to the second one, and both of those were quickly ours. But I didn't really plan to hold on to these settlements, I just wanted them to be able to sell them to Grimgor to try and keep him at bay, because he'll likely come at me at some point. But it was in fact this nearby American man that declared war on me first. I should have known the Americans would be looking for a war to get into. And then later on in the same turn, guess what? Grimgor declares war on me as well. Fantastic. Declared war on from both sides. Luckily though, I'd planned for this occasion of course, and as Grimgor was right there ready to smash all of our noses off, I simply surrendered quicker than the Danish in World War II, getting peace and a not too bad 6 grand. I then also gave Grimgor the other settlement, but this time in exchange for going to war with that fat guy. Oh, that was Greasus, wasn't it? Oh fuck, I thought that was your average American. But things were looking up. We had Grimgor on our side. He was going to deal with Greasus for us, hopefully. I had some skill points to use, buffing up my Tiger Men. I was also taking all the techs to buff up Tiger Men as well, so getting them much stronger. From there, we headed on down into Cathay to begin the cleansing. Hilariously as well, Grimgor looked like he was all set to go and absolutely ruin Greasus with 3 stacks heading his way. Disappointingly, over the turn, Zhao Ming got destroyed. He would have been a useful ally. Somehow he was still able to tell us his goals from beyond the grave. I then checked out how Queen Meow was doing. 6 settlements, not too bad. I declared my war on the first of her enemies, the Dissenter Lords of Chowmain, or whatever the fuck they're called, smashing and sacking the settlement, robbing them blind, wearing them down guerrilla style. And then it occurred to me, is she actually at war with them? No, she's not. So she's not going to push out and take this settlement. I'm going to have to take it and give it to her. She gave us 7 grand for this, so this is actually probably going to be one of the best ways for us to make money. Property development. Every tiger's dream. Back home, my main settlement was now up to tier 3, so I can get those Tiger Warrior Stalkers soon. And we'd accidentally unlocked legendary hero Tao Yan the Merciless. Now, she can't ride any kind of tiger, which is incredibly disappointing, so I can't use her in the armies, but I guess she can serve us as an agent. I also got given a random alchemist who I called Cat Eyes Yi. She would be an agent as well, but it turns out she was a fucking numpty because the first action I got her to do, she critically failed and got herself wounded. Fantastic. And the legendary Tao Yan wasn't much better. Her first action failed, so I tried again, and then she critically failed as well. Why are lone Chinese women so bad at assaulting large groups of men? This was my attempt at guerrilla tactics, assaulting garrisons and damaging buildings. So far, not going great. Nevertheless, Bhashiva pushed on to Shangyang. In the spirit of guerrilla warfare, we pulled some tricks, of course. Bhashiva with her stalk would sneak up and take out a door, while everyone else drew the enemy over to one side of the settlement, and then run around to the open door Bhashiva had created. I had her and the claw speaker hold off the one unit that was coming to defend the gate, so they could all run in unchallenged and we didn't get choke pointed up at the gate. From here, we just got tigers all over the place, attacking whatever the hell we ran into. It was pretty much all good matchups for the Tiger Warriors. We spread through the settlement, just slaying everybody we found, taking points as well, so their defenses went away. So nobody was safe, everyone got absolutely slaughtered. But what did they expect when their commanding unit was a unit of peasant spearmen? So we sat in Shangyang for a turn, getting replenishment before giving it to Miao Ying. I'd also been randomly given another claw speaker hero, who I kept his name Balraj, as it was kind of like the name Balrog, but Indian. About now is when Deathmaster Bitch declared war on us as well, so he was going to spice things up. And guess who came crying back to us as he was about to be removed from existence by Grimgor? You brought this on yourself, Sunshine. Tony the Tiger was now ready for action though, with his army of mostly stalker units with their ranged attack. And of course we gave Shangyang to our Lord and Savior, Meow. But as I prepared to move forward attacking the next Dissenter's settlement, there was a hell of a lot of Skaven nearby. So I hid in ambush on the down low, waiting for Tony to arrive so we could work together. Over the turn, the Skaven made their move though and took the settlement that I was going to take. They were obviously at war with the Dissenters, who came and asked me for peace over the next turn, which I thought would be a good idea because, well, they are Cathayan, so we don't really mind if they're here. It's those damn rats we want to get rid of, so we'll take the peace and focus on the rats. So we had our boy Balraj scout the settlement, we found a stack in there, and went in for the assault with Tony at our side. I thought about auto-resolving this one, but because there's another stack not far away, I didn't want to be too beaten up, even though this is mostly an army of Skaven slaves. Honestly, this one was a little bit awkward given the position of our reinforcements, so we pretty much just charged forward in a mad frenzy, our stalkers coming in on the flank, launching their frisbees into the faces of some rats. So overall, this battle was just a bit of a mess. This felt like what would happen if you let 100 cats into a room full of 1,000 mice. It was just a bit of a horrible bloodbath. Nevertheless, that was one of the big Skaven armies taken down. Now at this point, we were helping Miao Ying's empire grow. The vampires seemed to be doing okay, the Skaven were expanding. And in the guerrilla warfare fashion, something I often like to do if I'm facing a larger faction is try to find out where their main settlement is and get after that first. Because it's usually a big source of income for the faction and gives them their best unit. So if you take it out first, you can take a lot away from them. My problem was I couldn't remember exactly which one is the starting position of Deathmaster Snitch. But nevertheless, I snuck into his territory, staying in ambush so he wouldn't find my two armies. Snitch himself was right next to us with an army at one point, but that didn't stop us sneaking up for a cheeky sack on one of his nearby settlements, and then falling back stealthily into ambush again. Would he find us? No, he wouldn't. He just disappeared. We were tiger ghosts. I did briefly take the settlement though, just to get some replenishment. I then had to abandon it because I couldn't give it to Miao Ying. But as I started to move up the hill, Kunlan rang a bell. I thought maybe this was Snitch's starting settlement. Maybe it is. I can't actually remember, but I'm going to focus on taking that out, assuming it is, because it's a big major settlement anyway. It's making him some money. Let's take it off him. I did take a couple of turns to build some towers. I didn't see any armies around. I'd done a lot of scouting with my heroes, so I felt safe to get away with this. Now at this point I realize how much territory Snitch has and how much he's taking, so I need some help. I'm trying to get Miao Ying involved. I didn't realize she wasn't at war with him. I had to pay her 15 grand to do it. I should have traded her a settlement for it, but whatever, that'll do for now. Eventually we're ready to assault Kunlan and I'm going in for it. So for this battle I had my two towers move up to the walls, but they were a mere distraction. Once again I was going for sneaky Bhashiva gate destroying tactics, having her stealthily sneak up, take out the door, and then bringing all of the units round to come through that door. My Tiger Warriors up on the wall were doing some work, but they were inevitably gonna take a pounding and probably get routed off, but hopefully not entirely killed. They understood their work was for the greater good. My reinforcements arrived and they could sneak in through the towers as well, as my main army was all sneaking in through this left side. And my main goal here was to try and get after the victory objectives. I wanted to try and win that way because I thought we could hold those points pretty easily if I can get all my cats up there. Bhashiva pushed on the key flag and was taking it. None of the surrounding enemy units fancied their chances with her apparently, so they just all stood there and watched. And as she was just about to take that, I already had my Tiger Claw hero Shive up here to start taking the main point. On the other side of the settlement, my Tiger Warriors were pushing up the towers just to be a distraction, and I actually had the Stalker Tiger Warrior sneak round a little further up the settlement over the wall, and they opened the gate for the other Stalker Tiger Warriors, and thus we had 5 units in there nice and quick. Back over around the key point, we got a lot of our Tiger Warriors up top. The enemy had now engaged them. We were still holding and taking the point. And long story short, we pretty much ground them down, kept them off the point. They slowed us down a little bit occasionally. Good old Shive and the Iron Claw Warriors were up top. They had to defend a little bit. But eventually we did manage to win by taking and holding those points and filling up the bar, so we didn't have to fight everything on the map, but we did probably kill most of it. So Kunlan was ours. I did take it to get the replenishment. I did need to recruit another unit as well because I did lose one of those tower units. Mufasa, rest their souls. Bhashiva's quest battle did come up as well, which I wanted to do because it gets us that teleport ability of hers. But after seeing it was mostly against double-ard ogre boys, I thought I'd better wait until I get more Iron Claw warriors with the anti-large. Now, I didn't want to abandon Kunlan to go to waste because it would be a good one to give to Miao Ying, so I had to take Ming Zhu first to connect her territory to mine. I did fight this battle with Tony's army. It was a little uneventful. The Stalkers are cool though. They got that nice vanguard deployment. We got lots of ferocious ambushes, flanking, getting around the back, devastating flanker all over the place. I usually gave these places a loot and occupy as I was going to sell them on anyway. So I traded this to Queen Meow. She offered us 30 grand, which was pretty nice, so we took that. I then offered her Kunlan. She offered me 1 gold. Oh, for fun and enjoyment was had by Tony's army though, as he got to come back and replenish in the settlement for a little bit longer. But for every snitch settlement I take, he seems to be taking 2 more as his territory is somehow expanding. He's taken out those vampires. I checked to see what was up with old Golden Face, and he was at war with Snitch, and he was a friend of Miao Ying, so if he's a friend of Queen Meow's, he's a friend of ours. I'd also constructed the building to be able to get Celestial Lions, because hey, they're a cat, we're allowed those in our army, and the mobility of a flying unit would be very handy. I did want to get Jade Lions and Onyx Lions, but for some reason you can't recruit those as Bhashiva, which was disappointing. My cat army playthrough is ruined. The furries are going to be furious. Wait, I'm playing as cats, am I a furry? No, shut up. Over the turn, an elf spoke to me, and I was sick in my mouth a little bit. Over the turns, Miao Ying kept trying to get alliances with me, but I'm sometimes apprehensive to do that, because when you do, it makes that faction turn to useless scheisse. Tao Yan was also finally coming good. She managed to assassinate something. Up to this point, I've used her about 5 times, and she's failed on everything, so she's finally doing something. And Grimgor was pretty much the mafia at this point. He came asking for protection money because his territory fully surrounded mine, so I quickly said, yes, okay, no problem, sir. I then proceeded on using my armies to sack a few more nearby settlements, making some money off of those. Eventually, I bit off more than I could chew with one of them, so I fell back, went into ambush to try and catch the army out. But they didn't go for it, and I discovered another army at another nearby settlement and tried to set up a little ambush with one of my armies being the bait, but neither of the armies here took it. So I just focused one settlement and went after that, but it was a minor settlement and I don't love fighting those. But luckily I had a new army ready, but his name, Revan, was just not going to cut it. So I named him after 90s pop icon Scatman John, and that created Catman Rev, obviously. So bringing him over, we were now able to get a close victory, not going to lose any units on the auto-resolve. Lovely. I did have the issue now, though, that I couldn't give this settlement to Miao Ying because it didn't border any of her territory, but I could now give Kunlan, and it was worth 7 grand. Better than the 1 gold she offered us earlier. Basically, you want to leave a bit of time between giving a faction settlements so that they can build up more money to give you. Because when you do it quite soon like this, you don't get a lot, only 4 grand here, but we don't desperately need the money, so it's fine. So that's why I'm sometimes holding on to settlements for longer than I need to, just because I'm waiting for her to have more money to give me. From there, we push a little to the east and get Jiangxi as well. Randomly, there were some beastmen that moved into one of the Skaven settlements, so that helped. But it's not long before all the Skaven armies appear. They seem to have been over in the west area. And this was a big opportunity to take some of these armies out and severely weaken their military strength. I had Bhashiva push up with the intention to try and ambush one of these armies. I needed to replenish first, so I stayed at the edge of their movement range. They started creeping up. It was risky, but we had a 90% ambush chance, so we held our ground. They came and stood right next to us at one point, to which I had Taoyan come over and assault their units, and she did a good bit of damage, weakening them quite significantly. She was pretty strong at doing this now. So with that weakening of the enemy army, we were able to push on them. They ran away, but they were going nowhere. In this one, they set themselves up to be boxed in against the cliff. I had my main frontline push up, and then a unit on each flank to come around and make their units all skirmish into the center, where we could fully envelop and crush them in a tiny little rat box. And that's precisely what we did, charging head on into them, and of course their infantry couldn't stand up to ours. The flanking units moved in from the sides, pushed all those skirmishers into the center. The left side got a little bit caught up, but my unit in the center had broken through, and so we had the same effect anyway, and absolutely ruined them. Not to mention my Celestial Lion was having a good time, and Bhashiva was dealing with the Large and the Lord. So that was one of their armies down. I'm not quite sure what happened to the other ones. I think Miao Ying's armies nearby maybe took a couple of them out. Although one of the cheeky vermin armies had come over and attacked my starting settlement in my one province, but luckily our garrison was able to handle it. And then of course I traded my remaining settlement, Jingpo and Jiangxi, away to Miao Ying. This time though, I decided to get that defensive alliance finally, as she seemed strong enough that she wouldn't just go to shit now. Plus I could really use the replenishment in her lands. We were slowly but surely dealing with the Skaven, but Dala seemed to be becoming a bit of a problem, and her armies would be much tougher to deal with. So that was just a little bit concerning. Nevertheless, we pressed on, taking those Skaven settlements. We came and took Nongchang in an auto-siege, but because that settlement was over the river, it wasn't technically connected to any Miao Ying territory, so I couldn't give it to her, but I could give it to Dala, who offered, okay, let me think about that. Yup. I was a bit worried I pissed off Golden Face and I wanted him on side, so I gave him a gift of gold, because what else does a man with a face of gold want? It was now time for a fourth army as well, so I recruited another lord, but Vikramaditya was a bit of a mouthful, so Ian will do. No, Ian. The reason for Ian's recruitment was because we could now get Ironclaw Tiger Warriors, the anti-large one, so we could go and do that quest battle. But before that, it was time to head to the last sector of Skaven occupied territory. Catman, Rev and Tony took to the water. Bhashiva was heading for Shangyang, but Miao Ying got there first, so she headed down to Zhenwu instead, took that, sold it to Miao, and we now had the Skaven beaten down to their final few settlements, but Dala was still a concern. Miao Ying seemed to be dealing with the stuff in the north, chasing down the Skaven armies. Tony and Catman Rev were ready to come ashore, but I couldn't quite see what they'd be running into, and they were a little bit beaten up, so I left them there for now. We were still paying Grimgore protection money occasionally, but only 5 grand, which was pretty reasonable considering I had 60 grand in the bank. We continued on, scouting ahead, checking out Hanyu Port, nothing there, so I headed after that with Bhashiva. But she was attacked by an actually pretty formidable army. It had a bunch of Eschen, some halberds, some death runners, and a bunch of skirmishers. Didn't like my chances in this one, so we played it safe and fell back. But as I was sat there trying to figure out what the hell to do about this army, I noticed a Miao Ying army had just walked straight past it and had taken the settlement. Cheers guys, great help. Nevertheless, I set myself an ambush and stood next to their garrison just in case they came after me. I still couldn't do a lot with Tony and Catman, as there was an army and a settlement which could have an army in it right there, so I didn't want to jump out on the shore just yet. This guy again. He thinks he can speak to me. You're an elf, mate. No chance. Cough. I finally get our old boy Balraj down to come and scout this settlement to find there's nothing there, so Tony and Catman Rev can finally get out of the damn water. We then proceed on to take these last 2 settlements in this region. There's still the big Weijin settlement up north that the Skaven hold, so I tell one of Miao's armies to go and deal with that. They did have one more settlement here in Taizu, but Miao Ying appeared with 3 armies and took that. However, there's still a bunch of Skaven armies knocking around, but hopefully it's the last of them. Now, when it came to the Baleful Hills settlement, I looked at giving it to Miao Ying, but I'd recently given her some other settlements, so she wasn't offering a lot. So I thought, well, let's see how much Balthazar will offer, because he's connected there as well. I wonder how much he'll... Oh! Sold to the man with the golden balls. And with that, the southern lands of China were now nearly completely free from rats, just those couple of armies left, but it looked like Miao's forces were going to finish them off in the center there, and it looked like Miao Ying herself was going to go and personally deal with Wei Jin, and that she did. Perfect. From here, I now set my sights down south to go after Dala. She was the next big problem to deal with. Eschen weren't quite wiped out fully yet though, but there was a lot of Miao Ying armies around, so I figured she'd get him. And about now was the perfect time for Ian to bring all those Ironclaw warriors over, because we were finally ready to get after the quest battle. Against the ogres, there's a lot of strong ogres in there, some man-eaters, some crushers, plus reinforcements. This could be a toughie. Now, spoiler alert, as this is a pre-release video, none of you peasants have played this quest battle yet, and some of you might want to experience it first time for yourselves. So if you'd like to know nothing about this quest battle, skip ahead to the time 2048. If you're not too bothered about spoilers though, watch on. I'll give a brief overview of this battle. If you want to see the full battle, I'm going to have that available for members to watch, because I've been playing through quest battles over in the members section. Alright, skip now or get ready for some questing. Alright, finally they're gone. Those people have skipped forward. We can now talk about them freely. They're a bunch of dicks, right? Am I right? I think I'm right. What a bunch of dick skippers. What? Okay. So in this battle, I formed up in a triangle, essentially a box formation. And as you can see, there's ogres all over this map. Now, the way this worked, you can't see the objectives here, but there was an objective to come and kill this guy, who's protected by 2 Eshin boys. And there was a side optional objective to come and save these guys over here. And if you do, I think you get some reinforcements to come and help you. I, however, fucked this up because I killed this guy too soon, but not intentionally. I moved up this hill and took a little position on this hill, made an iron tiger wall because there was units coming at us from both sides, some man-eaters here. They were pretty dangerous, so I wanted to make sure I got the anti-large units on them. There was also a stone horn and a thunder tusk, but that lord that I didn't want to kill yet came down and attacked me, so I didn't really have any choice but to kill him. But when I did, there was a little cutscene of this big reinforcement army arriving, and it said that I failed that secondary objective, so I now couldn't get any reinforcements to help me. But I did my darndest to survive. I made a nice choke point, setting up the Iron Claw warriors, the anti-large, ready for those ogres. Yetis coming as well. Well, all sorts of stuff coming over here. We were being flanked a bit by a Stonehorn and some other units, some crushers coming up behind us, which is obviously pretty heckin' terrible for us. But luckily, we managed to survive. We chased it all off. We beat it all down and got the victory. Alright, let me just play a quick joke on the dick skippers a minute. So, through all of that, I couldn't believe I survived the closest, best battle of my life. And I couldn't believe it when the Space Marines came down and saved me. Only joking, skippers, there was no Space Marines. Or was there? Is that what ogres are? They're just retired Space Marines that have let themselves go? Is this just the planet they retire to eat and fight until they die? I think I may have just figured out a new conspiracy. Anyway, we now had Bhashiva's item with her teleport ability, and we got the Blades of the Bastion skill point for Bhashiva to buff up our Tiger Warriors even more. I'm also still paying off Grimgor on occasion to be allowed to live, so that's fine. And you probably haven't noticed it so much because I haven't always shown it, but I've been doing a lot of assassinating, assaulting garrisons, assaulting armies, really trying to use those sabotaging tactics to weaken the enemy. It's definitely helping my smaller armies deal with some of the bigger armies. The Skaven, though, seem to be fighting back. They've taken a settlement back with one of their armies. They've still got a couple more armies around, but Miao Ying also got a bunch of armies around. So I'm leaving it up to her to finish off Eshin. My boys are all heading down south now on a secret mission to get after the heart of Dakala's lands and punch her right in the snake balls. We're also very nicely on turn 69 now, getting close to that turn 100 to try and get China saved. A few turns on, though, at turn 72, and the news comes in, Eshin destroyed. Our cat lady overlord Miao Ying had done it, finished off the Skaven. It was now just Dala and some disgusting horrible elves to finish. Now our secret mission here had Bhashiva and Ian heading down the main windy river, with Tony and Catman Rev heading a different way. Eventually Bhashiva and Ian reached the ocean, which got them to Dakala's vital location of her starting settlement, Hidden Landing. This was no doubt going to be one of her strongest areas, her strongest province, so we were going to take it down the Slaneshi way, fast and hard, before she even knew what was going on. Can I say that? Probably not. Reminder to self, definitely edit those last lines out. Alright, what's next? Catman Rev and Tony were on a similar mission, but coming in from a different direction, preparing their assault. I had noticed that Meow seemed to be dealing with the elves, which was good, but also disappointing, because I don't know if you know this about me, but I really like killing elves. It's my favourite time. Nevertheless, we pressed our assault. I'd had Tao Yan here assaulting this garrison like 3 times before we actually arrived. I then declared my war on Dala and went straight in for the not-so-hidden landing. We gave that a jolly good sacking and then a quick occupy after for the replenishment. I also went and assassinated that creepy dickhead steer car, then pushed on to the next settlement with Bhashiva, assaulting it first with Tao Yan, making for easy victories that didn't cost us too much so we could keep on moving. Tony and Rev were coming in from the other side, starting with the gateway to Koresh, which is the big actual city settlement itself, so probably Dakala's first and most powerful pleasure palace, which we really needed to get smashed and sacked soon because money was a little bit of a problem. All the time we'd spent traveling down here, we hadn't been earning any money, so as you can see, we got about 3 turns before we run out of money. There was a rebellion, some greenskins came and took one of the settlements, but who cares? A turn on, and we finally got after gateway to Koresh, taking that, giving it a good old sacking for 28 grand. That saved us for a while. We then occupied the settlement to replenish and avoid the attrition. I then push on to the next settlement, which is another big earner. We've assaulted it with Tao Yan, and that's another 30 grand in the bank. Safe to say we're okay with money for a while now. And now that we were connected to the Golden Order's lands, we could trade them the settlement, so there's another 20 G's in the bank. We then pushed on, taking the other settlements in this region with no resistance at all. See, this is the thing when the AI builds a big empire, it only really puts its armies at the front of its empire where it's trying to expand, and never really leaves anything back defending the deeper parts of its territory, so if you can sneak back there, it's pretty much free real estate. So with our guerrilla warfare approach, we're hitting them where they're weakest, taking them out, weakening them significantly, and now there's not a lot of Dala left. with the help of Meow and Golden Order as well, of course. And at turn 86, we're getting close to that 100, but there isn't too much left. We're blazing through it. I'm assassinating Steercar once again. This is about the 4th time I've assassinated him. He literally comes back in about 2 turns, the annoying little... Continuing northwards, we started to get after the last few settlements up here. We did get the Doomsinger item, which is nice for that regeneration mostly. I gave it to Bhashiva. I hadn't really got many weapons in this playthrough at all, actually. But better late than never, I guess. A little while on, turn 91, Dala has 1 settlement left, so we're looking good to finish her off by the 100. I start cautiously pushing up to find Dala herself beaten up in her settlement. Another half stack not far away. I set up Bhashiva with a 100% ambush using Ian as the bait. Tony gave him a bowl of Frosties to be more appealing. And over that next turn, we got her. Although her army was no joke, with 4 Keepers of Secrets, a Soul Grinder, some Fiends, and she was at level 50. But we'll be fine, right? So my plan here was to use these 2 as bait to lure the army in and have my forces waiting in the trees ready to ambush from both sides. And then hopefully shortly after we've launched that, my reinforcements will arrive. But what I didn't notice about my reinforcements was their nearly 3-minute timer before they're going to arrive. So we're going to be on our own for a little bit. But while we're heading back ready to launch the ambush, our Life Claw speaker Alan has got bad knees, so he ends up getting caught by all the Furies. Bhashiva has to go back and try to help him, and we have to launch our assault early when we're really not in a great position to. Alan ends up having an especially bad time with 3 Keepers of Secrets on his face. And oh look, here comes Dala. Fantastic. Nevertheless, our Tiger boys fight their little furry hearts out. Bhashiva gets absolutely covered in Furies, but is able to sneak out of there with teleport before the Keeper of Secrets gets a hold of her, where she's then free to go and fight a Keeper of Secrets. But things are going from bad to worse. There's a firestorm knocking around. We're all getting massacred. My Tiger boys are struggling. Bhashiva's doing okay, but everyone else, well, they're routing. They're down to their last bits of health. They are struggling. They got no chance of taking down these last few Keepers of Secrets and Dala. But guess who's finally arrived to save the day? It's Ian and the boys. They are the elite anti-large power we need. They form up in a defensive formation, ready for that large to charge into them. The remainder of the main army quickly falls back behind those lines to save themselves. And it's on, our final battle for survival. There's still some Keepers of Secrets. There's still the Soul Grinder, the Chaos War Shrines, and Dala at full health pretty much. Oh, scheisse. Our Tiger bros keep going though, fighting hard. Dealing with those Keepers of Secrets is namely the problem. I'm trying to get my Lords and Heroes double teaming these single entities. These Chaos War Shrines are supporting the enemy quite a lot. My Tiger Warriors slapping the Demonettes around though. And through Fang Claw and an Iron Will, my Tiger Bros managed to win their fights with just a few enemy units remaining. Dala still mainly a problem. But with the destruction of everything else, away she goes routing, still half her health left. And finally, the last Keeper of Secrets face plants into the ground. Dala makes her get away. Bhashiva says, "Come here, yo," because that's her accent. Obviously though, Dala is quick as balls, so she can't catch her, but hey, teleport, this is it. Bhashiva's final chance to strike Dala down with one fell swoop. Yeah, fucked it, mate. So Dala narrowly escapes with her life, but pretty much nothing else in her army did, so it's fine. Dala herself retreats to God knows where, but there's a full stack in her last settlement of Fu Chao, so I mount up a big army with Bhashiva, end up bringing everyone over, and there's one last battle to save China Cathay. The usual siege tricks again, my army on one side of the settlement with my stalkers on the other side going to open the gate for the rest of the army. And can we just take a second to appreciate how these tigers climb ladders, jumping a few rungs at a time rather than climbing it normally? I think we can all appreciate that cat-like detail. The plan's working out though, they're sneaking in, taking the gate, ready for the main army to arrive, and then holding a defensive position to keep the enemy away from it until the main army gets over here. Bhashiva's teleport coming in handy here as she's able to just bypass the wall instantly with that. Very nice. She gets in quick to help the Celestial Lion, who's currently fighting 2 units of Fiends. I then bring in the Stalkers to help out, defend the rear little alleyway as well. There's some cavalry coming around there, so they would have absolutely hammered us in the back if we weren't prepared for that. And finally, my long line of Tiger column was arriving to get through the gate, and it was about time too. The Stalkers were struggling with all the Slanesh units coming their way. I did also have a reinforcing army that came in where the main army was, so they snuck in pretty much uncontested. Finally, in the main fight, some Iron Claw warriors arrived to deal with that large, those Fiends, that Chaos Shrine. And shout out to the Celestial Lions I've been using. I haven't mentioned them much, but they've been useful for disrupting missiles and breaking charges to protect the Tiger Warriors. All in all, this battle mostly ends up as a big blob in this area here, getting some flanking here, some devastating flanking on all these Slanesh units, giving them a taste of their own medicine. I do have the Life Claw speaker in this army as well, so he's working overtime trying to heal everything up. The reinforcing army doesn't really do a lot. It takes a nice sightseeing tour through the settlement while the other boys are doing the hard fighting. But all in all, it was a war of attrition, and we simply had more tigers to throw at the battle, because they had no tigers because they're Slanesh. But there it was, a victory, Dala's final settlement. Of course, we sacked it for that 30 grand. There was nothing but a little army of Dala left in the ocean. I sold this settlement to Miao Ying for 40 grand. I sold the other last settlement I had to the Golden Order for 40 grand. I beat the chops off of the final Dala army. She was done for, and China was saved. Mostly controlled by our precious Queen Miao and the man with the golden smile. And we got it all done by turn 98, so we celebrated Indian style by sacrificing some nearby goats. Come on! Bhashiva and her tiger warriors charged in with a furious war. The goats didn't really know what the fuck was happening. There was just a wall of tiger coming their way. I had Bhashiva teleport up and help the Celestial Lion dealing with the Lord. The main slaughter was pretty much just a blob of tiger and goat. And after Bhashiva was done removing the Lord from existence, she hastily went after the Saigor, whizzing herself over there for a final glory kill to celebrate the saving of China. And that's the story, kids, of how Bhashiva saved China. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Do check out the Patreon or YouTube memberships if you wish to support the channel. Otherwise, I'll see you in the future.